Hey guys, in this video I'm going to tell you about 3 real scary stories that happened in schools. So grab a coffee and immerse yourself in these tales. One day, when I was in school, I think it was my second year, I was sitting in class with my friend Isaac. He texted me asking if I wanted to hang out after school. I said yes, but needed to check with my mom first. So, the plan was to just spend some time at the park next to the school until our other friend Drake finished soccer practice, and then we'd all go together to a restaurant downtown, less than a kilometer from the park. Isaac and I were bored and chatting at the park while waiting for Drake. We started shooting hoops, just warming up because we were going to play one-on-one. Suddenly, an older man started walking toward us. This guy was maybe 35 or so, and immediately I started wondering what he wanted. We were only 15 and he was a stranger, so naturally I was a bit scared and on guard. He started talking to us and said he used to coach high school basketball in a town a few miles away. He asked what we were up to, and I said we were about to play a game while waiting for our friend. At first he wasn't being weird, sort of joining in and making jokes. Okay, he's not so bad, I thought. He was just a bored dad, probably. Shortly after, my friend had to leave because his mom called him. Apparently he was in trouble for something at school and wasn't supposed to be hanging out with me. So he left, and it was just me and this guy. He told me his name was Matthew, but I later found out that wasn't true. I started getting anxious after my friend left. Almost immediately after he left, Matthew asked me a weird question. "Hey, how about we go to my house? You and my son would get along great. I have a basketball hoop and we can all play. I'm parked right there, and my house is just a few minutes away," he said. He pointed to a creepy-looking old white van. Yeah, he actually had one of those kidnapper vans. That was the exact moment I knew for sure something was very wrong. I said no, and that maybe another time because I was waiting for my friend. He insisted, "Why don't you hang out with him another time? Seriously, you remind me so much of my son, and he really needs cool friends like you," he said. Then he let out a really weird laugh and gave me the creepiest smile ever. I said no and started running and yelling for help. This caught a lot of attention and some adults quickly ran over to me. It was a family having a picnic with their 2 much younger kids. The guy who told me his name was Matthew bolted to his car and sped away before they could get a good look at his license plate. They potentially saved my life, and I'm forever grateful for that. Luckily, I wasn't naive, and there were good people around who helped me. The woman's husband, who I was with, called the police when I told him what happened, and the woman was helping calm me down and calling my mom. I called my mom, and she rushed to me from work immediately. My mom and I went home after talking to the police. I gave the officer all the details I could about what happened and what the guy looked like. A few months later, the man was reported for over 5 separate kidnappings that occurred over a 2-year period. Apparently, he had been kidnapping boys and girls and keeping them locked in a basement. I won't go into details about that. Just know it was extremely horrific and twisted. I still think about it every day. Some days it consumes me and I have nightmares about him on some nights. He's in prison now and will be for a very, very long time. I can't believe there are people that sick out there. During my childhood and adolescence, I wasn't very sociable. Even today, most people would probably consider me quite antisocial. I never knew why, but I've always been this way. Sometimes I feel lonely, but I still prefer being alone and solitary. When I was in college, I usually kept to myself. I had a few friends, but I wasn't very close to anyone there. One day, during my lunch break, after getting my food and finding a table to sit at, I started feeling stranger than usual. I was used to not sitting with anyone, but I had been eating at that table for about 5 minutes and was the only person there. My social anxiety increased rapidly, so I tried to finish my food quickly so I could return to my dorm. I had a weird feeling that someone was watching me. I turned around and behind me there was a guy looking directly at me. I gave him a confused look for a moment and turned back around. I finished my food, got up, and threw my trash away. I looked to the right and briefly scanned the cafeteria. There he was, the same guy who was behind me, looking at me again. He whispered something to the guy next to him, and they both gave me a very angry look. What the hell are they talking about me? I thought. I had never seen either of these two guys in my life, so I didn't know what their problem was. I thought maybe he had some issue with me or they were laughing at me. I had been bullied my whole life, so please understand if you think I'm being paranoid. Nothing else happened, besides me being really confused, but I tried not to think much about it and went back to my dorm. Later that night, while I was lying in bed trying to sleep, I couldn't sleep at all and had been lying there for hours. I decided to get up and move around a bit. My anxiety was taking over, so I thought it would be best to go outside for some fresh air. I found a bench on the east side of the campus that I had never seen before. It was right under some trees, just before the entrance to a trail. After sitting there for a few minutes, I saw someone in the distance, standing next to the campus building under a yellow light. It was pretty dark outside, so it was kind of creepy. They stared at me for a minute or two without moving. Then, they started running towards me. I just sat there and didn't move. "What do you want?" I shouted as he got closer to me. I got up from the bench and started to walk backward a bit. "Hey man, calm down, what's going on?" I soon realized it was the same guy who had been staring at me in the cafeteria earlier. He grabbed me by the shirt, hit me in the face at least 4 or 5 times, broke my nose, and took my phone and wallet. He didn't say anything to me the entire time. Then, he ran off, and I never saw him again. After a few minutes of composing myself, I went back to my dorm and told my roommate what had happened. I explained everything to him, and he said we should call campus security to involve the police. I said I wanted to wait until the next morning. I tried to describe the guy who attacked me as best as I could, but my roommate had no idea who I was talking about. He didn't know the guy either. The next day I spoke with the dean and told him everything. He said he would check the cameras and get back to me as soon as possible. I left his office and went about my day, waiting for his response. When he finally got back to me, he said he saw me on the cameras that night, but there was no one else there with me, and he even accused me of lying. I was very confused. I tried to say I wasn't lying, but he kept cutting me off every time I spoke and threatened to suspend me for lying and wasting his time. He showed me the video and quickly went through it, showing that there was no one else there all night. After a bit of arguing between the two of us, I started to freak out and ran back to my dorm. I updated my roommate on what had happened between me and the dean, and I'm sure he thinks I'm crazy, and I think everyone else does too. Literally, I had a black eye and a broken nose, but no one believed me. I really think everyone thought I did this to myself or something. But the strangest part of this whole situation, which still bothers me to this day, is that, as I said, I never saw that guy again, and no one knew who I was talking about when I described him. Any friend I had cut ties with me because they thought I was seeking attention and was weird or crazy. I was never the same after that day. I don't know what to think of this situation, and I guess I never will. And I'm sure I'm not crazy, as this was an isolated incident and nothing like this ever happened again. In my last year of high school, I was having a normal school day. As I was walking to my 3rd class of the day, the principal announced over the intercom that there was an emergency, and we were in immediate lockdown. I started to panic a bit, because it was still a long walk to my next class, and I was running late, so I was practically the only one in the hallway. I almost went into the bathroom, but I thought going to the library, which was just a few extra steps down the hall, would be a safer bet that I was willing to risk. It was early in the year, so there was no way to know if this lockdown was real or just a drill, but usually we do drills before the real thing, and we are usually warned in advance. So, I had a really bad feeling. If I went into the bathroom, I would probably be alone, and anyone could come in at any time. So, if there was someone dangerous lurking, the only thing keeping them from reaching me would be the bathroom door. I hoped that the library door wouldn't be locked when I got there. Now there would be either an entire class or at least one person there. Fortunately, it wasn't locked, but there was no one there. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. I grabbed my phone and checked the weather app to see if the lockdown might be weather-related, but it wasn't. I sat there for a while, just waiting for the intercom to announce that the drill was over. Suddenly, I heard footsteps in the hallway, moving slowly towards me. I heard the library door open and my stomach started to churn. I was trembling with anxiety. but I couldn't help peeking through the books on the shelf where I was hiding. It was a frightening-looking man. I would say he was in his 40s. He began searching quickly through the area. It turns out he was high and was the father of a student who studied there. I think his son had been bullied by the same boys for years, and apparently he and his family had made countless complaints. But the district had never done anything about it. The only thing that seemed to do was give multiple warnings to the boys. And of course, with the boy telling on the bullies, this made the bullying so much worse, apparently to the point that the boy attempted suicide multiple times. As soon as I saw this man, I knew something was wrong. Who was this random man, and was he armed? What was he doing? What does he want? I'll hurt myself? Those were all the things that went through my head at the time. I knew it was something bad because nobody should be walking during a blockade. I didn't know at the time why he was there, but I could tell at that moment that the blockade was real. Just the way he was walking and his appearance. Also, I'd never seen him before, which was also a warning sign, because I knew almost all the teachers there, and he didn't look like a teacher at all. I could feel that he wasn't in good intentions. Indeed, he was the reason we were under lockdown. He walked into the library, and he slowly and silently walked in search of someone while I hid through the bookshelves. Fortunately, he did not see me, and left the library after only 1 or 2 minutes of searching, which in my mind was a half hour. The police caught him just a few minutes later. Apparently, he was caught with a dagger and some kind of pills. Now, I don't know if this is true, but it was said that he told the police he was after the boys who had been bullying his son all these years. I guess he was tired of seeing his son being bullied, but man, this is not the right way to deal with something like that. I feel sorry for the boy who was bullied all these years, but I'm glad that man was caught before something terrible happened. He probably had the intention of doing something terrible with the boys. Someone who would do something so crazy would be very unpredictable, I'm sure, and could be capable of anything. So I'm just glad he didn't see me in that library. School should be a place where you feel safe. That was definitely the most intense and scary thing that ever happened to me in life. Here's John Dark. Did you enjoy the stories? I recommend watching another video where I talk about real horror stories that happened during road trips. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more stories like these. Until next time.